All right,
All right.
you gonna start it off, bro, John?
Yep. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode of Slick Radio. We managed to bring back contrast. You know, took a little while, but we managed to get it done. Anyways, we have two special guests for you all, and I'm trying to tell y'all spoiled. we are really spoiling y'all this week right here. We have Dr. Kim Hill and we have John Van.
And I know that you guys both gave a casual introduction, to ourselves before we started the call. But if you don't mind repeating some of that for the listeners. I know that was a mouthful, but just so we can have that documented here, and it'll be etched in the archives. So whoever wants to start first, just repeat some of those things again for the listeners.
Yes, Dr. Hill, go ahead. You first.
Yes. Again, I'm Dr. Hill, and my background is logistics analyst. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I eventually, after high school, I joined the military. I spent 21 years in the logistics field. During and after the military, I achieved several degrees. My undergraduate degree is in information technology management, and I achieved a master's degree in human resource management, and then I am currently attaining a degree in leadership and organizational change in the management field, Walden University. And I am a person that have a lot of information, both on the private and the public side. So hopefully I am of some type of beneficial asset to this group of individuals that's seeking to become successful in their endeavors. So with that being said, I will turn the mic over.
All right, amen. John Van from the wonderful city of Hampton, Virginia, 79 grad from Hampton Institute. Dr. Harvey's first graduating class with a degree in business management and finance, emphasis in economics. Started my commercial corporate banking career then. Worked for a couple other banks. Been with other major corporations, including General Electric Credit Corp in the commercial corporate credit division, and also with Allstate Enterprises, the funding arm for Allstate Insurance Company, where we invested insurance premiums into mortgages and small business loans. Tax consultant, started doing taxes actually in my junior year, 1978, and been doing taxes since that time. So I do individual, small business, big business, commercial, corporate, LLCs. I do formations, business formations. So strong suit is business development with my banking career and my credit background, and also been in the collections area, so I know both sides there. Putting together business proposals by being a credit analyst, a loan officer, knowing what the loan committees look for. So now taking those years of experience since '05, being a business consultant, helping small businesses grow, helping them prepare a winning plan. Also have assisted in certifications from the SWAM here in Virginia to Hub Zone certifications, which is federal. Also the 8A certification program, DVE program. I've written grants for individual nonprofits. Did a tour with Hampton University as a assistant director of the Business Assistance Center. So I bring an array of business development, business finance type skills to the table. Also mortgage in the mortgage area, residential and commercial. So kind of that business guy, wear a few hats, accounting, bookkeeping, those type things as well. We try to keep it simple. We know with this fast today with all the technology and all the templates in the programs, but you still have to go to the basics. When all that go, my laptop crashed 2 weeks ago. I said, oh my God. So I had to go back to the manual process and doing some things, but it's good to be able to still do that so you can keep the ball moving while we have the convenience of the programs. It's always good to know how to do it with pencil and paper. So I'm old school, new school. So that's kind of, I can create something with a pencil and a paper, just like you can go in and punch in and do your spreadsheets, and I create formulas, and so I call it a winning business plan. So when it gets to the bank, they're turning pages, and that's what you want them to do. You don't want them to say, "Come back, this is not going to work."
Wow. And and for the listening audience, introduce myself, Chuck. My name is Chuck, and born and raised here in Hampton, and just growing up, I always had my one aspect of my mind outside of the box. I'd be participating in certain social genres, social groups, and I wouldn't be fully invested into those groups completely. And so, having an eye outside of the box, it would always nudge me. And no matter what type of situation, I was in, and it led me to create a pathway of learning to listen and trust that subtle voice that was guiding me, to not get too overly invested in the superficial. I'm the type of guy that I grew out of toys fast. Everybody was still playing with G.I. Joe figures, and I'm over here with magnifying glasses, looking at how ants create, their tunnels, and just my mind was in a different place. And so, growing up here in Hampton, I had the privilege of working, at a booming hair salon and barbershop in the area, Elegance in Motion, owned by a dear family close to my wife and I, the Musawirs. And that shop was Elegance in Motion right in Hampton University's Harbor Shopping Center. And during that time, moving from, cutting hair on my porch, in the neighborhood, the Clippers led me to cutting hair in that shop where the likes of Nice and Smooth would come through, the real Roxanne, Busta Rhymes before, he became Busta Rhymes, coming out of Leaders of the New School. I even have a picture of Biggie, a picture with Biggie Smalls, and that I had forgot that I took the picture with Biggie before he was even Biggie. And a host of other people. I remember picking up Naughty by Nature from the airport, so I've always been around, on the Biz Markie DJ my birthday party, but it was normal. It wasn't a big deal to me. I guess I wasn't, clouded by what was going on around me. And so, I had endeavors to want to achieve more than just being a barber. So I packed all of that up and went on a spiritual journey against everybody else's, comments and, thoughts, or what they thought were well wishes. I had to satisfy. Remember, we talked about that subtle voice, and I was surrounded by all of the things that everybody would pat me on my back and give me accolades for, and it just didn't fulfill me. And we're going to take this conversation to a very real place, because we spoke, Dr. Hill and we spoke about the need in the community, and Mr. Van, we touched bases on that as well. And I hope you both recall me saying that, there's a comfort level, a complacency in certain institutions, whether they be religious institutions or educational systems, that kind of turn their nose up, to real community. And a lot of the community that we call real are experiencing some very detrimental hardships in their life, and it's because of the lack of knowledge. People suffer for lack of knowledge. And one other common aspect that I can appreciate for the both of you being on the call is that the level of spirituality that you're able to bring to the table along with your professional accolades. Most people are one-sided. They either have one or the other. And I am one that I'm not afraid to admit that embarking upon that spiritual journey, I turned my back on a lot of the, fiscal responsibilities. It wasn't easy to turn my back on government jobs. And I'm also going to introduce, my wife of 19 years, who I attribute a lot of, my spirituality, her tolerance in looking for and seeking to find God, and the many aspects that people may be able to describe what it means to them, what God is. One of the most important things that is in Revelation says the crystal city that comes down like a bride to a groom. Well, when we listen to that, we hear, the bride to a groom. So we're missing the balancement of the masculine and feminine, not just within ourselves, but within our household, within our community. Our community is really suffering because our women are out here twerking and, falling way below the radar of what it means to be that foundation, that rock in the household. And I attribute a lot of that to my wife. And I'm an avid reader, and I study very hard to show myself approved. And I run across some pretty amazing things that I bring back to my wife. And I'm going to document here that after I brought a lot of those powerful findings that helped me be able to, create and, build a bridge between my journey and God, no matter how much I brought back to my wife, she said something very profound to me, and it was, I've always been here. I was waiting for you to get here.
Amen.
When she said that, it just like brought everything from its complexity to its simplicity. And it's simple in its complexity at the same time, because most of us are fighting our way in the dark. And it's because either we don't know our spiritual abilities and the gifts and talents that are going to be bestowed into us and poured into us once we reawaken, once we go through that rebirth, or we put our physical bodies on that cross and we go into that spirituality and letting that spirituality lead us through the valley of the shadow of death. A lot of that has to do with physical torment as well, be it political, government, educational, financial. If you read scriptures, it's talking about Yahshua. And for those that out there may not be familiar with the term of Yahshua, it's the proper way of saying Jesus by using the Hebrew pronunciation. In the Hebrew alphabet, there are no J's, no D's present in the Hebrew alphabet. So when we say Yahshua, it's, it's for those who have already, come across that understanding. And sometimes we may say Jesus for those who still refer to the Christ as Jesus. And there's nothing wrong with it. If it works for you, then it works for you. But remember, we got to study to show ourselves approved. And so, again, when my wife said, I've always been here, I was waiting for you to get here. So that spirituality of satisfying that subtle voice within my head that kept pulling me out of trouble, kept pulling me into more spiritual maturity, now had to be matched by the battle that Yahshua was up against with the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Christ's battle was always against government, turning over tables in the temple, and our people suffer for a lack of knowledge. So what we have here on this call tonight is the best of both worlds. We have Dr. Hill, who has a plethora of information from both public and private, and we have Mr. Van, who has been in the financial banking institution, and I heard you mention as well that you're familiar with the public and private side as well. So I don't know how to organize this. There's a lot on this phone call. If we can kind of speak to some of the things, whoever wants to take this question, you can kind of speak to some of the things that satisfied you in both of your both of your expertise levels, meaning that what satisfied you or completed you, not just what you've accomplished, through your doctorate or through your professional accomplishments, Mr. Van and Dr. Hill, but what completed you? Where were you able? How were you able to keep your spiritual balancement, included in your professional approach?
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and go first. Actually, I like the fact that you start off by asking us that question, and I'm here to say that I'm not complete. I'm not complete until, and I'm not going to say until, but I know that there are people like me out there that needs help. I know that people's foundation, and I'm not going to say I'm also perfect, because I'm not, but there are people that have foundations that are not well put together, and the fundamentals that they need or that they're lacking. I think that I can some kind of way get in there to help them understand, let's say, even who they are, or anything about their name, or how to fill out an application, or what is it that you want to do, or where you want to go from here. Maybe I can be some type of benefit or additive or asset to helping you meet your goals. And that's the thing that comes to mind. And I turn the mic over.
Okay, with that, I guess the thing that really motivates me along this journey called life, along with my banking, financial career, working also in academia, in the public sector, and as an entrepreneur, I will say this very openly. I know about discrimination when I went into corporate banking. At First Union, they were in the top 20 banks in the country. In the commercial side of the bank, at that time in '79, there was only 4 blacks that were there before I got there. Told I couldn't be black if I was going to make it. Left there, got a call from Allstate. Went there after 4 years of rising to the senior management. Then came those late evening meetings, and the KKK card was flashing, and yes, the N-word was flying. If I had a recorder back then, I would probably be a multi, because they definitely did those things, experienced them first on. But what that did, though, and I've seen a lot of brothers that could not stand it, they couldn't hold their tongue. I said, I'm going to hold my tongue because I'm going to get this knowledge. So that was part of my school of hard knocks, by going through that process, being trained by them to learn how they do things. So I have seen a lot of things in my journey. The last stop was with the city of Newport News in 2099 to 05, and called them out after 3 years, 4 years, saw how they were discriminated against blacks, because I was the business representative, and they told me to go to the big companies, don't go to the minority companies, because we want you to go to the big companies, which we know they were the white companies, because they said they make more money with them. I said, well, the black small businesses need servicing also, may not need what a Canon may need, but they need to know where to go and how to get there. So I stepped out of the box, challenged them, and so they wrote minority businesses into the program while I was there. Seeing the need for that, I stepped out of that cush job that I could probably still be sitting there in a senior management position, and said, let me step out and help, because I could do more now on the outside than on the inside because of the limitations. Along the way, I also, I'm a nuclear engineer, so I've been through that school and saw the same things there rising in a nuclear engineering program. You see these things happen, but what gives me the charge when you step out of the box and say, okay, what can I do? When you see there's a void and you see how people trying to get there, but they're running in a merry-go-round, not knowing where to go, and to see success come out of little or nothing and make something, and to see the hope, which led me into the ministry. You know, as growing up as a kid, you know, I went to church, but really didn't know what it was really all about through the traditions and all. But 8 years ago, when I stepped out and put both feet out there, understanding the ministry and how the power of the Spirit works through us, and how the Spirit will show you things and teach you all things. It doesn't require a master's in divinity or a doctor's in theology to understand what the Word is saying. You have to, as Chuck said, study to show yourself approved. And if you put in the time, so I had to take my corporate knowledge. God said, if you can do what you did in corporate America and with the city and in the mortgage, and use it for my kingdom. So sometimes you have to lose the game. I've been in the restaurant business. I've opened several restaurants, but I walked away from all that and put my time in with the Lord, because that's where my strength comes from. And that really saved me. Thank God for salvation and repentance and that regeneration of that dead spirit. Because when you know you're on to something and you're doing something, the devil is out there on attack. And I've been in the spiritual warfare battle, and I'll say this from the standpoint of, I know what it is to be in a hard situation, that valley of the shadow of death, when your friends, everybody has left you, and you think you're all alone, but God is always there. He said he's right there with you. That's what he said to David, and he's with us. Because when you have to lean on that and trust in that, faith is what you can't see. And I just share this openly because it's part of my testimony. I was facing 8 years ago 160 years in the federal penitentiary. Yes, 160 years. I had 8 felony charges.
You're there with Bernie Madoff, man.
Yes, I had 8 felony charges on me. I was the top story of the day on its news channel. They were flashing it 3 and 4 times a day because someone was hating on me and went and told a lie. And next thing I know, I've been arrested and got to deal with this. But see, that's the way God will humble you to get your attention, because he said he will make your name great. I had a flourishing business. Everything was going great. I had a jazz house, club, restaurant. It kind of got, but people that you think are your friends are not your friends. So God delivered me, because man could not have done that. It cost a lot of money, a lot of faith, but God prevailed. And there's nothing, all that has been expunged. There's nothing in the record showing that happened, but I had to go through the process. I had vice presidents from Hampton University, treasurer, the Commonwealth attorney, everybody on my side, because they knew it wasn't right. And I walked away from it once they found out it was a lie that forced them to do what they did. But I walked away from it and walked to God. I said, Lord, if you get me out of this here, then I walk away from that. I may help others open, but I'm done with this. So I know the power, and also the power of healing. When you can see these, with my excitement of helping businesses, when they get that loan and creating jobs and, negotiating settlements with the IRS. I've been in times where people couldn't sleep, and I go in there with favor and it take $10,000 off of the money that they owe right off the spot, and people can't believe supernatural. I've seen supernatural things.
Nice.
That power. After coming out of that 160-year scenario, 7 months after that happened and God started working on my behalf, I'm just talking about the power now. I'm trying to show you and teach and give you some real stuff. This is not something you read. I'm just coming straight from a commercial banker person, know everybody in town and out of town. But then the doctor called me and said that I had to come quickly to the office, and my wife and I went to the office. Now, the devil is mad because now you're going to put 160 years on me, and now God is delivering me out of that. And had 2 other people. I had two separate $200,000 lawsuits on my head at the same time. And didn't do none of it. I'm saying, Lord, what is it? And then Lord delivered me out of all that. Right.
Yeah.
For the doctor to tell me if I didn't give a liver transplant that I was going to die. I needed to get an immediate liver transplant. I'm saying, Lord, now I done got past this 106 years on television and went through court and won these battles. Now this. So God has a plan for each and every one of us. And if you keep him first, because it's been 8 years and went to a specialist, no cirrhosis of the liver, less than 1% scarring, all these things here that the devil would try to put in front of your face, because God, I said, Lord, you said you give me new organs and you would heal if I come to you. So these are real stories, a real testimonies to the power of the Spirit, how he can heal. He can heal you, because the devil will try to keep you from that. And I've gone and helped so many people with that. I'm a giving person. My wife said, why you keep giving? Right now I should be a multi-millionaire. I have probably, no exaggeration, probably over $10 million out there right now today that's owed to me for helping businesses, getting them to where they are. I'm old school, handshake. If you tell me you're going to do something, I deliver the product and I get the money later or take some here. That may not be the way you want to operate, but that's how I operated. But it has sustained me, and that's why I'm still here, because of giving. And you can stay in court all day. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You mentioned some powerful things, and one common thing that I want to hone in on is journey. All of that is journey, and that's one thing that we all have in common, and that is our meeting point. We're all meeting at the crossroads of our journey. You know what I mean? And I also have to highlight some of the language that I hear both of you mention. You mentioned that working from the public sector, and that may sound like nothing to the listeners, but to mention, to have it mentioned means that there's other sectors, and it is those other sectors that we don't have knowledge on. And if you look at the dollar bill says this note is legal tender for all debts, both public and private. And that is one thing that caught my wife and I, caught our attention about the both of you, is that you're coming from different aspects, but having a plethora of knowledge that we all need to hear both sides of this. And again, speaking about journey, Lanisha, again, my wife of 19 years, my journey to find spirituality, and as you said, walk away from a lot of the things that you walked away from. I too walked away from, opportunity to take a job in law enforcement. I was working at night in a graveyard shift, and I used to be a barber, and I returned back to barbering, but I walked away from being a barber, with all of the things that, experiences that I told you from that lifestyle. And as like 19 years old, I was making, about $700 a week. Plus I used to sell marijuana, I wasn't a coke seller, nothing like that. I never sold, hard rock. I was a conscious dude, so yeah, I would make like another $700 just off of weed. You know what I mean? So here I am, a young man, I got about $1,400 in my pocket. You know what I mean? Backstage access to whatever club or party. You know what I'm saying? We drive to DC, on the weekends, 7-car deep, hit Howard University, and indulge in the intoxicants of the world. You know what I mean? And so everybody was patting me on my back, saying, you're the man, and I was still unfulfilled. And so I wanted to know that I could be more than a barber. And so I walked away from all that, shut it all down, and, sped it up. And I had accomplished, the opportunity to take the job in law enforcement. And but I was working at night on a graveyard shift, making the money in San Diego. And I didn't know my wife or my children, because, I would come home from the graveyard shift in the morning while my wife was walking out of the door to go to work in the morning. And so, we were at the crossroads. I know I was at the crossroads, where I had accomplished making the money, but I was still unfulfilled. I was unfulfilled with going to all the parties and, the social aspect, shut that down, accomplished the things, by, being at the threshold to take a DOD job and still was unfulfilled. So where's the balance been? And I want to ask my wife to come in on this part of the conversation because she's been able to be by my side. We've been by each other's side the whole time of looking to find how it worked. Raising a family, we tried it all types of ways. I'd work at night so we wouldn't have to pay the daycare in the morning. Our oldest two were back to back 18 months apart. So Pampers alone was, kicking us in the ass, so to speak, and so we tried it all types of ways, but I want my wife to come in because it would behoove me not to have her, input on what she's hearing on the call right now and how this is a beautiful meeting between everybody, the completion of in certain aspects of our journey. Felicia.
Yes. So I appreciate that. And we have a family of 5. We actually have actually a family of 6. I correct that. We have 5 between us together and our oldest daughter from before Chuck and I got with each other, and it's definitely been a journey. Our children, our oldest is 19, graduated last year, started, college, and she's experiencing her time in the world, and, she's doing good and working and just finding her place as a young entrepreneur, as well as a student, and just finding her way in life. Same with my son. He just graduated high school, and he is going to school and building a brand as we speak, with the help of Dr. Hill, which we definitely appreciate. With also having a 8-year-old, that's our youngest. That's our little sidekick right there. She keeps us young. She keeps us going. She just came out of nowhere. So, and then the oldest, she's 24, just had a son, and he actually just turned 1. So we're grandparents as of right now, and it's just been, a beautiful thing to experience different growth in our journey. It's been from being married 19 years. Of course, it is definitely a journey. You go through things, you learn from things, and the best thing is that my motto is I don't have to experience everything. So just by looking at people around us, or having people around us at times, sometimes it's just a season, but we always hold tight to each other and keep a union between us and our family. We have a real strong family bond, and that is one thing that has kept us in a has kept our focus. We're real focused as far as our family is concerned, because we're really serious about their well-being. So along with us, raising a family, having businesses and things like that, it's so good to see people around us who also grow. Just like meeting Jonathan and Slick Radio, it was about, I think, a year ago.
For a year and a half. Well, I don't even know if
Yeah.
it's been a year, to be honest. Has it been a year?
Nope. January.
Wow, that's crazy. It
Exactly.
seems like forever. Like it seems like forever.
It does, though.
You know,
It definitely does.
it does. So seeing the growth with Slick Radio and even with Jonathan, Nakia, just with their personal growth. Nakia, I haven't known as long. However, just getting to know everyone that's on the calls and just seeing how knowledge can really change people. And that's what our relationship has been based on anyway. Our relationship we got with each other on knowledge and research and studying, just different, just life, religious studies and things like that. So when it's not on a superficial level, it goes beyond the physical. So, like Mr. John was explaining, we definitely know about the intervention of the Most High because we've seen supernatural. We've seen, we've experienced so many things, and our children is raised around this. So they're way beyond even what we were when, we were that age. But just growing up around it, they're already at a point where they're going to grow at a rate that they can just excel. You know what I'm saying? And surrounding them around people that really is there for their best interest is it really means a lot. So meeting Dr. Hill and also um, Mary, that's by way of Mary. That's how we met Mr. John Van. So it's a pleasure to just be a part of this because it's growing and I see it.
And I wanna compliment that and qualify that with how before we get into the deeper aspects of what's going to go on in this call. If you are not settled right now, I advise everybody that's listening to go grab you a nice room temperature glass of water, sit back, turn the lights out, and invest yourself in this conversation. Again, you can write with a dim light. Make sure you take good extensive notes. Another way to keep up with what's going on in the conversation is to be able to jot down in the timeline what you heard in the conversation so you can fast forward or rewind to get to the part, because we're going to discuss some very in-depth things of part one series, as long as everybody is pleased with the direction of where we're going, and we can get some results and invest ourselves here. We commit to returning back to these calls every now and then, so we can invest our spiritual self into this. But having said that, I want to point out that what's happening on this call right now is that we're investing our mental, which is the unseen, which is the spirit, and we were often going to refer to certain quotes in scriptures. May not be aware of exactly where to find it. And if somebody knows, you can inject that as well. Otherwise, that'll be homework for the listeners to go find these scriptures. And a lot of these scriptures they're just words if you don't lift them up off the paper and become the living word. And so I want to point out a couple of things, which is our weapons are not carnal, and what that means, along with faith without works is dead, along with faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So we'll start off with our weapons are not carnal. And so the carnal, dealing with carnality, we're dealing with physical. And if you heard tonight, I know we heard both Mr. Van and Dr. Hill mention public and private. And so when we talk about public and private, one of the main things that our people are suffering from in this hamster wheel journey is that they don't understand the dynamics between the two. And that's what this call is going to be focusing on. When we say our weapons are not carnal, most people, they, in our generational inheritance or generational curses, when our parents, move on to the spirit world, they don't have anything to leave behind. And this is what Yahshua was battling with the Sadducees and the Pharisees, because government came in to actually torment the soul, torment the spirit. If I can impede on your mind and replace all of the hopes that you have for heaven and impede on that communication and cause doubt with that communication that you have with the Almighty, then I have done a successful job of destroying any thought of eternal life. And eternal life is in the knowing of the Spirit, but it's also been introduced on paper. And so a lot of our relatives, they die. They don't even pass on. When we use the word die, it's no longer to exist. And so when we deal with wills versus trusts and trust law or estates, this is one of the core aspects of this kickoff conversation of having Mr. Van and Dr. Hill on the call, so that we can explain some of these things and we can walk together, starting at the most basic aspects. And I'm going to coin that with Dr. Hill. She's always saying, bring it down a little bit, Chuck. Let's start at the basics. And so I'm going to document that here, that's what our intention is to do, is to invest ourselves. Right now, there are a lot of places that everybody could be, but you're on this call right now, or either you're listening to this. And everybody that we invited to the call tonight could be doing some other things, but they found it within themselves and their spirit and their purpose to be on this call and give their best self. So I would highly advise everybody to take advantage of what's going on and remember how to jot down on the timeline to rewind or fast forward to get certain very important parts of the conversation so that it could be a benefit to you. So our weapons are not carnal, are dealing with the fact that the carnality is always being tormented. Either it's tormented because we're working a job that doesn't pay enough into our household, so we're trying to make ends meet. And so a lot of people, they go to bed and they fall asleep from exhaustion because they live most of their day in the carnal, in the physical, blue collar. But there's a white collar, and that white collar plays the role of the overseer or the spirit, which is controlling. And so when we know better, we do better. And in our journey, my wife and I, of having tried it all types of ways, me being so overly invested in the spirit, I was missing the physical side. And I think everybody can remember, as we were approaching what they were talking about, anarchy in 2011, even in 1999, there was a false alarm with, 1999, everybody was afraid of, the computer crashing and what we're going to do, these doomsday events that plague our mind, and what are we going to do? And most of the people who were suffering is because they were worried about how are they going to keep up with the Joneses. And that's a disease, because none of these things that we accumulate here in the physical, in the flesh, are eternal. And so we're living, over our means. We're tormenting our spirit. We're violating certain laws, because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, which is a false nomer. It's fool's gold. It's Judas betraying Jesus or Yahshua for 30 pieces of silver. And that public and private knowledge is where we need to begin in the basics. So if anything that I've said in that little bit right there, my wife has said, both you, Mr. Van, or Dr. Hill, chime in on some of that may have moved you, so we can start at the basics, as we said, if you don't mind.
Well, being, and I appreciate, you said you and your wife, you have 19 years and counting. I'm 38 years and counting. So my wife, she's been there, been really the backbone when it seems it was out of bounds. She stayed in bounds, kept everything right down the center. So, that type of chemistry is what's needed on this earth, and it's a form, not only a love thing, but it's a spiritual thing when you both understand and can operate and step out of the fleshly things and the lust of the flesh and get into the spiritual aspect, and understand the principalities and this where the battle is being fought, and who do we call on, and after we've done, all we can do is just stand. The faith, the two enemies of faith, which I have come to understand, is doubt and unbelief. And so we've all been charged, because the word says without faith it's impossible to please God. So Yahweh, through tradition, like I said, I'll be 61 this year in September. So growing up, all you would see is the European aspect of religion. But now I understand that Jesus, Yahushua, did not come for religion or denomination. He came to bring the gospel, the good news of the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. And so once I understood what that meant, and not rely on man to show me, and allow the Holy Spirit to teach me, the elevation is much greater. And then you can start seeing things and have an ear to hear when the Lord is not only getting your attention, but he wants to talk to you, and he wants to have that intimate relationship with you, because he wants to use each and every one of us to be that example and being that ambassador for the kingdom. The word says we live in this world, but we're not of this world. But we have to understand as we go through this journey called life that Jesus, Yahushua, even said the tribulations are going to come because they hated him. So why would they like you? Once you start speaking the truth and saying the truth is what will set us free. And so by keeping it that way, against all odds, Yahweh is still making rivers and streams in the desert, ways out of no ways. I've seen it, and he can do it. If he done it for me, I know he can do it for you, but it takes the hope, and it takes us working together. There's economic empowerment in our communities. We got to some say take it to the streets, take our communities back. Well, we never lost them. They've always been there. We just go the other way, and sell ourselves out. What happened to us changing over our dollar 4 and 5 times in our own community? We take it, first thing we do is go and put it in the white bank or go to the white store. We don't have that support now. We wonder why these Orientals and these Asians come over here and do what they do, because, they stick together. And we have to practice that, whether and by seeing the public sector, by working in city government and seeing on the inside how they run the city as it's their own business. And I've seen money being moved around, and I used to be on the outside understanding, well, why aren't any minorities getting these contracts? And then I go on the inside and I see how they manipulate the money, and they pull it from a public job and move it to the private side under the Economic Development Authority, Industrial Development Authority, and then they bring it back. So when they move it off, they're called Joe, go do this job. When I start seeing $300,000 and $400,000 checks being cut, I would wander around after everybody leave to just see what was going on and start pulling files, start seeing things, and that opened my eyes to a whole nother thing between development and engineering, how they, and I'll say they steal money or misappropriate and give out jobs. And when I challenged them and they told me there were not any black businesses in the city of Newport News that could do these, I said, I had to come back strong and prove them wrong. But this is the thing that we see, and we see things happen, but we don't know what questions to ask. So we stay on the outside and just let it pass. But it's time. It's time for the exposure. It's time for these things to be made public. But it's going to take not one person, but it's going to take the knowledge And if you point, even in the private sector, I can understand that more than the private because, you know, it's owned by that person or person, so they can do certain things. But I've seen favoritism, even in the banks. And so these are things we have to prepare ourselves and allow the Spirit to grant us favor in the endeavor that we take, whether it's with a bank or in a business transaction. We have to have that trust in God, but also in one another. So the power that we can resonate amongst ourselves if we can just agree to disagree. This conversation tonight is very encouraging. This is a move forward. I've talked to many young and old, and so many of us are still stuck in that same mindset, you know, and want to blame the Caucasian. It's not their fault, you know, it's our fault. Because we can make a change, but we have to do something to make that change, and we have to do it together. And we have to share what we have, and we have to impart what we have. It's not always about the dollar bill. Yes, God will bless you, but He also said you have to be a giver, and the knowledge that He has given to help reach one, teach one. It's not always about the money. Yes, in this world system, we have to barter with money, whether it's paper money or hard money, you know, coins or gold, whatever the medium is. But at the same time, the barter system still works and it's alive and well. But if we are going to move forward, and I'm not trying to speak from a discriminatory standpoint, but we need to really unite. We need our Black institutions back. We need more Black banks. I've worked for a Black bank before, leaving the big bank to come work for a small Black bank to bring to them what the big banks are doing. And unfortunately, because of the people that were there, they didn't want to change, you know. So these are the kind of walls we have to break down and stop allowing the evil one to hold us back. You know, we don't have any. Right now we have 20. Go ahead.
No. Please forgive me, because you know you're loading so much in the conversation that you know we have to make sure that we spend a little bit of time on some of those things for the ears of I guess virgin ears. You know what I mean? And I know you're on your marathon. You know what I mean? We don't want to stop you, but I also want to compliment it because I know there's some things that Dr. Hill has heard. And I want to also point out one of the things that Dr. Hill, you enlightened me on just in our short time of getting to know each other. And we also appreciate you working with developing our son who's been raised around this, to be able to see that, oh, my mom and dad ain't crazy. There's somebody else out here who knows about this private sector. But one of the things that you pointed out, Dr. Hill, to my wife and I, that made so much sense is the activation of your straw man. Rather than just leaving the public sector, completely, but being able to control your straw man. Can you kind of speak to some of that a little bit to give us what you found about the opposing sides of the public and private and how it helps, ease a lot of the anguish for a developing family and community?
Yes, and I'm glad that you asked me that question. I was just sitting here engulfing myself in your conversation, and is that Vaughn?
Van.
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 Sorry, Van.
V-A-N-N.
Okay, Van.
Yes.
Van's conversation, and I'm not sure how much of the audience are where we are. But I want to let you know that you said something very distinctive, and that was having your family productive, making them productive. And my grandparents used to say to me, I just want my kids and my grandkids to be productive operating in this society. So when you said that, it kind of gave me a flashback, Miles. And then I think I heard someone mention reaching individuals to teach them, reach one, teach one, or something to that.
Yeah.
something that's. Now I'm going to tell you that there's a lot of jargon that, and I'm going to say civilian because I was in the military, civilians use that I really have not become acclimated with yet. I have, I'm still trying to adjust myself with the drill sergeant mentality versus being actually in up front and in front of an individual that actually has no concept of where they want to go, and if they do, it's very little, and they don't know if they're at the top or at the bottom. I mean, really, some people really don't know. So back to the question that you asked me about the public and the private. I would say to you that that was the question. Am I correct?
Yeah, and also just a little bit, if you can kind of sprinkle some of that in the introduction of the straw man and what it means to take hold of the straw man. And feel free, Mr. Van, to chime in as a compliment to some of the things that Dr. Hill points out.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the straw man. That assumed individual that the government or the law can state a number of names for you: debtor, obligor, grantor, all the or, signor, all of these assumed positions that you can take on with this straw man name.
And Dr. Hill, I got some noise in the background. I don't want anybody in the listening audience to miss anything. So if whoever has some noise in the background, if you can kind of go to a place that's a lot more quiet or mute your phone. But I don't want anybody to miss, because Dr. Hill's about to go in and mention some of those aspects connected to the straw man. I don't want you to miss anything. And Dr. Hill, can you speak up just a little bit so we can make sure this is recorded clearly?
Okay. So what I was mentioning before is all the assumed and fictitious names that the straw man can, that the law and the government can attach to the straw man. And I was mentioning the obligor, the grantor, the debtor, the creditor, and I'm not talking about the secure creditor, the signator. All of these, and it's so many more that goes along this line, but all of these ors are some of these debtor, or some of these names that, or assumed names that are attached to the straw man's name. Okay, so that's on the public side. So on the private side, with the license, and I'm talking about the driver's license, which is in essence an operating license, attach these assumed and fictitious names to the private individual by way of a signature. So, and I really like to demonstrate this in illustration so that when you see it, you can say, aha, I see how these individuals or how these persons are attached to my private self.
Amen. And looking, I guess, from the legalities of what Dr. Hill is speaking towards, speaking to, we must be very understanding when we do sign on as that straw person, what our rights are and what our rights aren't, and how we're protected, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you may be encouraging, or you may be opening yourself up to a liability situation. So you always want to make sure you know what rules are being played, because I've seen rules made and rules were broken. So it depends on who you're dealing with, know who you're dealing with, and, you know, allow the spirit to show you, try the spirit by the spirit to make sure that whatever contractual situation it is, that it's legal, it passed those tests, so that you won't find yourself boxed into a situation that you're going to find difficult to get out. I've gone on situations and outside of banking and finance, I actually have represented clients, and they brought me on not only as a business consultant, but I represented them in court. One was against a major bank, Bank of America. Lady, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. What makes you move when they taking this elderly woman and trying to put her out of a house that's paid for, that's worth over $300,000, and she didn't know, and they tried to pull the plug, and I show up in the last quarter and win. Those are great things, because, you know, I had to put on my legal head and do the research. But if you know what the rules are and what the laws are and how you can protect yourself and your clients, these are very important things. So before you sign anything, make sure that you read all the print and the fine print and see if there's any on the back, so that you not put yourself in an adverse situation.
And you said something profound right there, and I want to point out that, you know, Dr. Hill, you want to chime in on that, sound like?
Yes. So, Van, I just want to add to what you've already articulated. Now, because when you say to people, read and know what you're signing your name to, I mean, I look over my past, and I've looked at contracts and mortgages and so forth and so on. I mean, even my enlistment contract, it was in language that I had no idea what the heck it meant. And it was so many pages, and they like dump all this paperwork in front of you. And we are under the assumption that we have to read all of this paperwork right in front of the individual that's pretty much serving on us. So I want to add to what you had to say about know what you're signing your name to. I want everybody to know two of the most important things about your signature. You can sign your signature however you think is appropriate, but if you don't know what's appropriate and correct for that particular situation, then you might find yourself in some kind of loophole, like Van said. So from tonight on, every time you sign your name, right above that name, you put all rights reserved. From today on, you put all rights reserved. That's one. Number two, every contract that you sign has a 3-day write-up rescission.
Yeah.
You take the contract home with you, and you, Van, am I correct? 3 days write-up rescission. Van?
Yeah, you're exactly right, and a lot of people don't know that. You know, so
don't know that.
You know, you don't have to.
Go ahead, Van.
I'm sorry. Yeah, a lot of people don't know they have that option, and they, you know, you have a lot of high pressured sales tactics, or you may be excited. You know, someone has decided to loan you $200,000 or so to buy this house, but then you don't look at the interest rate that you're paying. They may told you one thing, and the rate has moved a point or two up, and then added extra fees, but you're so excited and that you were able to make sure, take the emotion out, and make sure that when you've got those disclosures that they match up. If not, you have an opportunity to question, or like Dr. Hill was saying, in that 3-day interval, you go back and review those documents to make sure what you saw is what it is. So if it's not favorable, then you could, rescind and get yourself from out of that situation and have it corrected.
Wow. Dr.
Yes,
Hill, you want to go in? You had another point.
Yes, that 3-day right of rescission is extremely important. So if you take your document home, your 30-page document home with you, and you don't have, because life keeps us busy, if you don't have enough time to read those documents in 3 days, then send them back for somebody. They have 21 days to respond to you, to explain those documents to you, or allow you enough time to read those documents so that, to make sure that you understand them. So
now, is that at your own expense, Dr. Hill, or, how would one go about, that thorough of an investigation?
What do you mean at your own expense? As far as sending the right of rescission back?
Well, that legal jargon is going to take, an attorney. You know what I mean? So would it be on the dime? How would that, how would you recoup payment? Would the company allow, because they want to sell? So is there some loophole that you can get that research on their dime? If they had to hire an attorney, or would it be on you?
Well, understand, if you hire an attorney or get someone that's more familiar with those type of documents, then that'll be on you. But remember that the company is trying to make a sale. Okay, so if you go to the company for the information, which I have done both of them, the company, if you're unclear about something, it is the company's responsibility to make things clear to you.
Got you. So, in other words, if I'm going to take say person A is going to take a car off the lot, and I've been in the car arena before. I've had $5,000 checks in a week, and I had to pull out of that game because I found myself sitting at a table with an elderly woman one day, and she said, "Baby, I don't have much money to spend, and this is what I can afford. And so you take this to that man at that desk up there and tell him that's what I'm going to pay." And I listened to her, and I walked up to the desk, and I said, "This is what she got to pay. You know what I mean? Y'all go ahead on and close the deal up." He looked at me, it was like, "Bruh, get back over there and tell her that this is what we're going to accept from her." And she had sat down with me and got intimate. This in our culture, we looked at, I'm going to respect her like my own grandmother. You know what I mean? And so I'm hearing her story, and God knows if she got $400 prescription bills, or if her husband maybe have $700 dialysis bills per month. You know what I mean? That's tormenting her soul and her spirit. And all she wants is a car. And so he sent me back with no remorse and said, I had to be the liaison. And I didn't feel good in that journey, but God was also showing me, or the Almighty was showing me, how to pick a lane. Where you going to be in this world? You're going to be superficial and walk the world of the carnal, or you going to get into the spirit and do something about building this kingdom and this kingdom out here? You know what I mean? So when I went back to her, I sat down with her and I said, he said he can't accept your offer. And he said, we're more on the lines of taking it on these numbers here. And she said, "Baby, didn't you hear what I just say and told you?" And when she said that, I went from an adult to, as I'm supposed to a child that's being chastised by my elderly community. And so it just started eating away at my core aspects of who I am. I'm making $5,000 checks a week. I'm driving a company car and everything, cuff linked out. You know what I mean? We eating good. And at that moment, she became my grandmother. And I said, "You know what, ma'am? I need you to take your stuff. I need you to go ahead on and find you another lot, another salesman, because I can't help you. They're not going to give you what you're looking for, and I won't feel good closing you on this sale." You know what I mean? So I walked her to her car, walked back inside, sat at my desk, and he looked at me like, he called me, "Miles, come over." I went to the desk, He said, what happened to the sale? I said, man, told you at the beginning the lady can't pay that money. You know what I mean? And I didn't feel good with that. Closing, he said, man, I don't know how long you going to make it here. And I sat down, I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to make it here either. You know what I'm saying? Because it was eating at me. You know what I mean? So the point of what I'm saying to you, you know what I mean, this call tonight and explaining, divulging the research and the experience that you guys have accumulated is worth something. And tormenting your spirit is a lot of times you questioning yourself and asking yourself, do you need that or do you want that? This information that y'all are dropping on the call tonight, straw man, you know, public versus private, you know, allodial titles, we'll get into some of those things, signatures, grantors, debtor. Like, this is some powerful stuff, y'all. And I want y'all to keep your ears tuned into this, because once you unbutton yourself from the torment and learn how to rescind that signature and what your rights are in that process, you know, will set you free. That is a truth also. The truth will set you free. Now, it's not just a spiritual anecdote. This is also in the carnal, because we're attached to a lot of contractual agreements and obligations that we're not fully disclosed. So, Dr. Hill, pick up on that and go in a lot more in depth if you don't mind. I think we answered the question, did we, in regards to is that actually, while they're research, if you rescind it, is it on the company's dime that because you're questioning them, do they pick the dime up because you're questioning them? Do they provide you, you know, somebody that's going to, you know, be able to explain that long, lengthy contractual agreement, or do you assume responsibility and hire an attorney yourself?
Well, like I said, it depends on it. Okay, so the company is trying to make a sale, whether it's a car sale, whether it's a mortgage, etc. Okay, so the right to rescission and ban, I'm going to get into one particular issue that I shared an experience with an individual who actually submitted a right of rescission to a loan company after purchasing a house. So the company wants to make the sale. So the company does have the responsibility to answer and responding to the question that you have in those documents. If it's something that you don't understand or something that was not clearly explained to you, then they must explain that to you. On the flip side of it, if you hire your own attorney or you get someone that's experienced in that area, then they can go and explain it to you. Then you won't have to submit the right of rescission.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It'll be non-biased also.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
It seems like that would be beneficial because hiring an attorney would be non-biased. If they, you know, going to speak, they have the best interest of closing in on that sale, so they may not have the best interest of fully disclosing you. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes. But like I say, it's the company's responsibility to explain whatever question that you have about that contract. That is their responsibility. So let me share something with you. I had an acquaintance that purchased a home, and the home was, I recall it at $347,000 in Omaha, Nebraska. The husband did not agree with how the wife explained some of the information that was in the contract. After they signed the contract, came home, looked at it, so forth and so on. So the husband remembered that they had the right of rescission. And if anything that they didn't understand or like about the loan, at least that's what was told to him, that they had a right to rescind the loan. So they rescinded the loan. I think it was on the third day. I think it's 72 hours. So on the third day, they rescinded the loan. And I want to touch on some spiritual afterwards. Okay, I'm not a Bible scripture quoter, but keep in mind the third day, and the third day he rose. So these 72 hours on that third day, okay, on that third day, he sent in the right of rescission. And the company's responsibility is to respond within 21 days. They have to answer the question or get back with them with some type of information regarding the purchaser's concerns. They didn't answer in 21 days. The people have been living in that house note free for the past 7 years. They don't have to pay anything. And I think, Van, I'm sure you're aware about this.
Yeah.
Touch a little bit on this.
Whoo, yo, Dr. Hill, you going in. It's not the first time I hear before, Mr. Van, you chime in on that. Because I know you a bull waiting to come out. I know you're a bull waiting to come out the gate. But I want to say something about that. I've heard this mentioned before about the third day. And remember, the 21 days also, they work in numerology. You know what I mean? And a lot of these corporations behind the CEO, these are a lot of evildoers that work from a spiritual doctrine that's meant to torment the soul. And especially if you want to get into the spiritual correlation to this, we'll talk about it later, but it's the Talmud, which is the Jewish Bible. And they work a lot of their business dealings according to astrology, astronomy, and numerology. So that 3 days is related to the resurrection, which is the freedom from the flesh. So that bondage is freed up. But also the 21 days dealing with numerology that they know about. The 2 and the 1 is also 3. The 21. You know what I mean? So go ahead on and open the gates on that, Mr. Van. Go in on that, real heavy on it.
Yeah. Well, the truth of the matter is that particular client, the bank saw that it was less costly on them to allow them to stay in that property, because they were facing a major lawsuit. With the fallout, I don't know what year that took place, but I know after 2010, because of so much deceptive marketing and advertising with even your major banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, there were robo-signing documents by a third party. People were not being fully disclosed documents, these 80-20 deals that got people stuck. A lot of those people did not know, they panicked that they had legal rights. And a lot of them just walked away from their homes where they could still be in those homes. Same way today because of the illegal drug activity that was going on in the banking industry, whether it was a bank or a mortgage company, because the banks were actually funding the mortgage companies. That's where they would go and get their credit lines from. So they were all working in cahoots. And that's why, you chase the paper and you see what ends up. You sign with one company, but someone else is funding it. And with so many firewalls there, people didn't understand. Now the rules have changed, but still, you still have a lot of inexperience in processing. And even right now, I work with a company. It's owned by a Korean, and they have their market is the Koreans. Me and my colleague, we are both Black. So they saw us as an opportunity to help them grow their business in California and also here in Virginia and Maryland. But again, we had to step up to protect our people with working with them because they show favoritism. So there have been a couple situations where it was on the borderline similar to that, because we do have rights. And once you know what your rights are and you push them and enforce your rights, you watch what happens, because they don't want to, especially in banking these days. The suits have decreased because people now are getting knowledge of the fact that they do have rights. And so even something as simple as on a 30-year mortgage, if you make one extra payment per year and just write on that one extra payment in December principal, you automatically cut off 7.5 years off of that 30-year mortgage. But they don't tell you that when you do the mortgage, because they want the full 30-year ride. So just imagine if you just do 2 payments per year extra, how much money and interest that you will save. So there are a lot of things there that they don't tell you, but they are for real. And, you want to look at all your options and make sure there's no prepayment penalties there, because they'll slide those in. All types of things we have to be aware of today. So I've seen it.
We actually, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, Mr. John, we actually experienced a little bit of that when we lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. This was right before, everything went and was when the housing industry was, crashing.
Yeah, that bubble, yeah.
It was crazy because we actually had a home built from the ground up, and our lender was Bank of America. So we actually, excited, back then it was just, myself, Chuck, and Kimon and Kadar. But we actually, was going through this whole process. And at the time, Chuck's job, he had switched positions. He had switched jobs. So from going from one position to the next, he actually increased his income, which is a good thing. However, because we were in a first-time home buyer's loan, not understanding in full, our rights, not understanding in full, everything that we're signing, and putting trust in the housing development, because it was a new housing development, that's linked with the bank. They pretty much playing, back and forth. And so when he switched jobs, they brought it to our attention that we actually we capped out of the loan. Like, we reached our cap. We over.
Again, I'm sorry.
Basically making too much money.
We having some problems on the line real quick. Jonathan, you got the panel on that? Anybody else hear that muting thing going on?
I heard something about. I did hear something about unmuted.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I got it. I was hearing background noise. I was trying to see where it was coming from. That's my fault.
Oh, okay. So basically, they told us that now by this time the house has been built. The house is built. We went through the process, like, our family going through the whole experience, seeing the progress. We'd just pop up, and see what's going on with the house, while the builders in there. And it was things that was not right. So, as far as on the spiritual side, that house really wasn't for us anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, the foundation was cracked, and we went one day and the builders had put a whole open can of Coca-Cola in the wall. I was like, what in the world? It was a whole can, like, in the wall, built in, like they would have just closed it in. It was just crazy. So it was some things that didn't really fit right with us that we had to get with the builders on. However, as far as the Bank of America situation, when Chuck switched jobs, we ended up overqualifying for the loan. So they told us that we would have to sign to reshop the loan, and it would be like a $500 fee in addition to, anything else we had to pay. But in addition, we'd have to pay $500 each day for each day the house is on the market to reshop it. So being a first-time home buyer, it was kind of shocking because, again, not knowing, we just didn't know.
We lost
But
all
I
our money.
remember
We
that.
lost everything.
Yeah.
It was everything
Yeah,
in
I know
that
that.
Bank of America crash. Had we known what we're divulging on the line tonight, that power of signature and rescinding, as Dr. Hill mentioned and Mr. Van has confirmed, is key. Because here we are on the phone, on the line, on the opposite side of of this story. And again, as my wife just said, the spiritual side of it is that house wasn't forced anyway. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, it's not. I wouldn't say it's fair. And that's what it is. We have to increase our knowledge. What I mean? And then what is that? It's studying. What I mean? So that's self-approved. That's how. And to be honest with you, one of the key elements I want to keep running side by side with the development of this conversation is that when you go to court, they say, "Do you swear to tell the?" They stop saying it. But the traditional way is, "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?" And that's a powerful trick. It's deceiving because back in the day, scriptures were used to represent your being, which is what you're supposed to be working to express through this life's journey. You express the development of your wisdom through this timeline. And the more you accumulate wisdom, it becomes your relationship and the communication of God, expressed in your morals, your ethics, your virtues, and your values, but also expressed in your propria persona through your straw man. And that straw man is to be used in commerce, like a pawn on a chessboard. And so again, listeners, listen up, because Dr. Hill is going in on some things. He mentioned some things that have both a public relevance as well as a spiritual relevance in regards to the 3 days that Christ rose, but the 3 days to rescind, and 21 days, which also in numerology is 2 and 1, for them to get back to you. And you said that they were living 7 years now today without a payment. Is that what you said? Make sure I hear that clear, Dr.
The time has expired for them to respond. They didn't respond within 21 days, and the house belongs to the purchaser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share another experience, since we kind of got a little bit on the 3 day deal. And then Miles, I know you have a plethora of knowledge on that, but I'm going to have to get off during the time you're going to share, but I'm going to leave you guys with this about this 3 days. So I had a very dear friend who had gotten incarcerated. And he went to court, and then he was put in jail. And I was thinking, what in the heck just happened to this guy, right? So my brother had spent some time in prison, and he was telling me about, I called my brother, he started telling me about a habeas corpus. So I was like, what in the heck is a habeas corpus? So I was like, and I may not have pronounced it correctly, but I was
It's like, correct. I heard.
Okay. That's what I was like, what is going on? And I didn't know anything about the court system. Never been in court, never been, never had any infractions or any encounters with the law or anything like that. So I went online and started looking up this habeas corpus thing. So I said, well, let me fill this thing out. So I filled it out, and then I looked at, where do I take this? So I took it up to the Newport News Circuit Court. They didn't accept it. They said I need to take that to Richmond. So I took it to Richmond. Do you know within 3 days they had that individual before the judge? Within 3 days. And when I share that with people say that they have never heard of a judge responding to a habeas corpus. So I put that in, and when I took it up to Richmond, I took it to the federal court. When I took it to the federal court, they were like, everybody was kind of moving really fast. We got to get this in. We got to get this in. And I'm like, well, what's going on? They said, we got to act on this right now. I was like, okay, I'm still not knowing.
Mutiny.
Now that I'm getting more into this, I see. But what I wanted to leave you with is they had to have this individual before the judge, and they needed to tell him why they were doing whatever it was that they were doing to him. So I leave that with you, and they released him in 10. So the 3 plus the 7 equals the 10. So I'm not, I'll let you work with that, Miles, but I'm going to have to release myself from the phone call. I enjoyed everyone.
And Dr. Hill, before you do go, what do you think about the direction that we're taking the call? And do you think it's it has potential? And also, would you be willing to, make this a stop off so we can continue to document some of this important information and carry the listeners along in a process? What do you think about being invited back to the call? Are you open for that?
Yes, I am very open for that, but I want to be an asset. I think that it will only get better. I would like to see that we have a guided call, because, and I'll tell you why, because some people just don't want to hear my story. You know what I'm saying? It's not beneficial to them right now where they are in their lives. So if we can kind of have a consensus and to have some kind of guided, structured call based on people's needs, I think that would be beneficial.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we appreciate your time and your information. I'm sure everybody is gonna, start their process, and you should have sparked some type of curiosity. We welcome you back to the call anytime you want to stop by, or either you want to make an emergency drive-by visit, and you call everybody to some information that you want to share. We have no problem of, organizing our time around that. It does not have to be structured, every Wednesday. You know what I mean? It could be, we got an emergency thing you want to present, and we'll, scurry together to get this documented and recorded. So we appreciate you spending your essence here tonight, and we'll continue on with Mr. Van. You got anything else here? Can you plug some of your information so people can follow you if you want, like Instagrams or any extracurricular businesses or outlets that you may have? People want to get in contact with you for any type of expert consultation or anything like that. Do you have anything of that nature that you want to offer?
Okay, I don't have anything that I want to offer right now. I'm not public in that essence right now.
Oh yeah.
So what I'll do is, you can, if someone wants to get in contact with me and they have any questions of me, you are more than welcome to share my number and contact information with them. I do have a Facebook page, but the only thing that I put on Facebook is hello, I love you, and goodbye.
That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do.
And that is a public website, and we can talk about that later some other time too, because that is a business website for your straw man. And that's why so many different companies go to that website to find out about you, because that is your company website. That's your sole proprietorship website.
Nice. Well, you definitely departing on some high class, dropping those bombs and jewels like that. So we'll definitely be looking forward to you visiting us again on the call. So we appreciate you, and we send blessings your way on your journey. Anybody else got anything for Dr. Hill before she departs?
Definitely, always appreciate it, Dr. Hill.
Yes, most definitely. Thanks so much for the information that you shared. This very, very encouraging to know that we do have some troopers out there. We're still in this race, but we're not giving up. Quitting is not an option.
Thank you indeed. Thank you. I learned. Wow. That's all I can say.
I'm gonna share this book. Yes, Dr. Hill is releasing herself from the call. I've seen some supernatural things happen in the banking industry that, they would say, well, I don't know why I'm doing this. Well, I know why, because the Spirit is moving you. But, you know, I've made loans, mortgage loans, but I also have done modifications on the other end, helping people save their homes. I've stopped foreclosures the day before, some the day of. And I had one client that came to me, true story, last August. Wells Fargo was his bank, 14 years in his house. They foreclosed on this man. I found out about it the day after the foreclosure. I said, Lord, I done help people. I done stopped foreclosure, but this would be the first challenge I had to get this man's house back, that now the bank has taken possession and had moved it into their name. He was all the pieces. Make a long story short, I said, we're going to do a Mary Poppins. First of all, we're going to walk right into Wells Fargo unannounced. Now they're going to tell them we're coming. Before it was over, the branch manager was writing a letter. By the time I started talking about discrimination, man had a disability and all these things here, she wrote a letter to their legal division. And I also put a letter together to their legal division for a rescission of the foreclosure. And do you know, in less than 7 days, here we go with the numbers, on that 7th day, the bank gave him that house back, put the house back, and said, apologize, and said, whatever we can do to help you, reduce his payment, all these things. Yeah, so I know with the power of the Spirit of God, it can happen. If you know the rules and know how to use, put it in their face and stand on it and use real examples and come with facts and use everything that you have that the legal system give you, because they give us weapons and they're out there, but they don't tell us. This is where the research and allowing the Spirit to move you. And when I put that together and told the client, we're going to walk in here, we're not going to let them know we're coming. In 7 days.
I know you got your spiritual calisthenics on right now, Dr. Hill. You know what I mean? I hope we've excited you about our interests. Yes. And we hope that you can find a home here and that we can begin to build some very strategic ways to move through this world and gain your appropriate persona, holder in due course. You know what I mean? So you're family member now. So anytime you want to get back, just let us know. We're going to continue on with Mr. Van. Jonathan, if you don't mind pausing the recording real quick, and we'll pick back up after we.
Hold up for a minute. Hold up for 1 minute.
Okay.
Van, I want to get with you here in the near future because you talked about stopping foreclosures. I am interested in stopping foreclosures on the body, on the property. How the jails and courts foreclose on the human being. I want to share some knowledge and really get down into that so that we can get these people that's incarcerated for minor and trivial infractions out of there.
Yes, and that's one.
Wow.
I'm with you on that. That's something that I have a passion for because when I was with the city, I went out to certain businesses and said, look, I know some people, they've had a bump in the road. They got a felony on them, but they're good people and they need a chance. And I went in with humbly, and a lot of people today were given jobs that they didn't know how they got them. But I put the companies, I went to them, and they gave these guys an opportunity. But it's going to take more of that, and even going inside the walls and giving them some hope when they come out. And these like hideous crimes, because I've seen the difference in white and black law, and I've seen the difference of those. I asked a probation officer, this was in the year 2000, and I asked him quite frankly, I said, why twice a week I see at least anywhere from 10 to 15 black kids from the age of 8 to 15 walking in chains from juvenile detention to the courthouse like they're on a chain gang. Very seldom would see a white kid. And I saw this for 3 years before I asked this question. And he said, John, you got a good point. I said, I want to know, because I know these white kids do this as much or more than these black kids. And most of these black kids were coming from the East End, and they they got to survive. So they're going to do whatever it takes for that to happen. He said, well, what they do is the white kids, they slap on the wrist, take them home to their parents and tell them don't do it again. Black kids, they take straight down, get a rap sheet. So we got to stop it there. Plus, once they get past there, they need a voice and they need an opportunity. And what I found in talking to a lot of these guys is they would have, once I got their confidence, they would break down and tell me about how they were raised at 8 years old. It might have been some things going on in the household with their mother and whoever else. And, they found themselves at 10 years old having to take care of their other 3 brothers and sisters and, was just reaching out, so they had to do what they had to do, but they got a good heart and they just need a chance. And we got to reach these guys, and women. I went to the jailhouse one day and prayed for 15 girls.
Wow.
And, they all got released. They left with orange jumpsuits on, and within an hour, they all came back with their street clothes on.
Right.
Hey,
So,
I know you got to exit, but I just want to make sure that people know what the content of some of that to be looking forward to on what you want to divulge about what you've learned about foreclosing on the body. The listeners that are...
That's it. That's what I want.
Amen. That's powerful.
So Jonathan, what we want to do is also get you both hooked up for your own individual interview, because this is an introduction to the listeners to begin on a series to follow a pathway that's being paved by people who have experience. We're actually elevating right now Mr. Van and Dr. Hill into the ancestor realm as our advisory board or council, if they be so graciously to accept such a role of responsibility and come as you are. There's no obligation, but based on what we heard so far, I know we could benefit from it. My wife and myself and our family. Jonathan, I know you, Nakia, and some of the other people that come to the call. So what do you think about setting up an individual interview with you so that you can get out a lot of the things that you want to get out that's not in a limited conversation and time frame? What do you think about that?
We can definitely do that. Matter of fact, I got Nick on the call now. Hey, Nick, you down with that? If you're still there, brother.
Well,
Nick's on the call now. But yeah, okay. I'm all for it. Definitely.
Dr. Hill, Mr. Van, okay, you are.
Yes,
okay.
I'm open. Yeah.
We don't want to hold you any further, Dr. Hill. I know you're busy, so we're going to continue on with Mr. Van. And Mr. Van, if you have to go also, then we're going to continue to call ourselves based on some of the things that you guys have dropped as a precursor. And we'll touch bases with you later on, what the next step is, next phase.
Yeah, I'm going to have to excuse myself also. My grandkids, they're leaving, heading back to Dallas early Sunday morning, so they're winding down. I'm going from upstairs to downstairs, so they would be in the background.
No doubt. I feel like I've done my purpose to introduce you, and Dr. Hill, to each other. I hope this is a relationship that you guys can kindle and networking opportunity to build a bridge for everybody. I think we're going to be a strong team.
Amen. Well, definitely. Keep me in the loop and let me know, the next call, and we'll keep a light on and we'll keep plugging and grinding, both hands on the plow. Don't look back.
That's what's up. Peace and blessings. Send our regards and our love to Miss Mary. You know what I'm saying? Dr. Hill, you still there?
I'm still here. Get ready to hang up, though.
No doubt. We love y'all. Peace and blessings. Thanks for stopping through.
Thanks so much. We'll talk again soon. Okay. Thanks so much.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Peace and blessings. So as you can see, this is taking a very abrupt turn in the right direction. It's going to add focus. What are your thoughts? Anybody right now that, what you heard so far, talk to me a little bit about what y'all heard.
That whole signature ordeal blew my mind. I said, "Oh, wow! Wait, what?"
Exactly.
I was like, "Yeah," because I was like, "Okay, all right, huh? What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Exactly.
Hello.
Uh-huh.
Hi, everybody. This is Michelle. So I've been listening to the call.
You gotta go, Michelle.
What?
Yes.
Get out of here. Yeah.
I know how Michelle do sneak in.
You know that's how she do. You know what I mean?
That's
What
how
up?
she disappears. She just there.
That's Mary Poppins right there. She's
You
popping.
never know.
What you said. So I'm interested in the last thing she touched on. I mean, criminal justice, and some of these. I mean, it's a big business in the state of Virginia. So anything we can do to help, get some of these young people out of the system. Some states, or I should say, some countries don't even incarcerate young people. We have a $1 billion industry in the state of Virginia for youth incarceration. So it's actually the number one industry in the state of Virginia. So I'm interested in that train of thought. Where you go with that? So I would be tuning in for that for the second call, I guess, or the next part of that, part 2. So, but informative call, very good.
No doubt. I'm glad all this is being documented. You know what I mean? I just sent Brother John a text message through the back. You know what I mean? Make sure he's recording.
Yeah. It's still being recorded. Because I was about to pause when he said something, but then Dr. Hill dropped another bomb. I said, nah. Yeah, everybody got to hear this.
Yeah, don't stop. Because remember last
Good
time,
call.
Don't even stop it. Just let it
go.
Good call. So Michelle has had an opportunity to spend some time in that capacity, even attending some of the was it a congressional? It's not congressional. What's the proper term that you were visiting Richmond for?
Yeah, congressional, General Assembly.
Yeah,
policies,
General Assemblies.
Congressmen and delegates, and how they play the game, and it is a game being played, and the bureaucracy is designed to keep them in their jobs for 2 to 4 years. So they move. I get the distinct impression from my observation and from my experience that it's intentional to move slow, but they only seem to move slow with our kids. So it's alarming, and I really think people don't know which way to go or how. I don't know if people are aware at the rate that they do incarcerate. I don't know that they're aware that the taxpayers, we pay $170,000 a year to keep our young people incarcerated. And so we're actually paying to keep our children locked up.
Yeah. That's crazy.
A little brief thing I'm going to say, because I too need to get off the call. But there was a guy that got, I think it was in Newport News. The judge gave him 12 months for a pack of hot dogs. So he sold some hot dogs from, this was an adult, but he stole some hot dogs from Walmart or wherever he got them from. But what it means is for us as taxpayers, because we are the ones supporting this cause, we pay $30,000 for a pack of hot dogs, because that's what it costs to incarcerate an adult for 12 months in Virginia. So that's what we're spending our money on. Yeah, so I think you know, getting the word out. I just think people don't know. People would be outraged when they found out some of this behind the scenes things.
I'm glad you helped clear up what meeting I was actually looking for. It's the General Assembly that, you know, a lot of people, you know, opt out, including ourselves. You know what I mean? I'm guilty of not taking up the opportunity to go and see how that whole operation moves. And you can rest assured that the direction that we're moving in right now, we're going to be taking field trips. You know what I mean? So your expertise and things you experience, you already know that the Spirit Most High be working with us. You know what I mean? So chime in anytime you want, Michelle, because as you just heard, Mr. Van, you know what I'm saying, years of experience in the banking system, you know what I mean? As well. Yeah, as well as Dr. Hill. Dr. Hill, she's already operating secure. She's moving, you know what I'm saying, through this. So, there's been a long journey, as you can attest to, Michelle.
Yeah, absolutely. And in regards to your General Assembly, we don't show up. A lot of things that go on is because we're not there. When they have something going on, whether it's a park, a traffic light, or whatever they trying to get done, they show up in droves. And a lot of times what we do is we'll vote. We'll get out the vote. We'll go and vote. But we don't hold anyone accountable after we put them in office. So they basically do what they want to do. But the way it should work is once we put them in office, we need to be there telling them what we need them to do. And we need to put that kind of pressure on them. And even when you talk about gun rights, when it's time for gun bills to be passed in Virginia, not only do they come up in busloads, they bring their kids. You have little 10-year-olds with pink bulletproof vests and pink guns that know how to take them apart, put them back together because they need them for their gun club. And thus the laws and the bills get passed. So we don't show up, we don't make noise, you know, but the squeaky wheel gets the attention. So
nice.
we got to squeak. So
Yo, Michelle showed up in the last corner.
You know, Michelle came through.
So what you think about the call, Michelle? You think about the direction that we're going and what you heard, you know what I'm saying, as far as, you know, making this a regular visit stop. We took it from the brick and mortar to the virtual world, so it's a lot more easier for people to, you know what I mean, stop off. And this is also being uploaded, you know what I'm saying, Slick Radio. It's a series, as you just heard, Dr. Hill and Mr. Van will be visiting quite frequently so we can begin a strategy towards real results by, you know, getting control of your straw man and operating secure, public and private. So, what do you think about what you heard?
Well, I mean, I like what I heard. I agree with what Dr. Hill was saying about the structure, as in people who are tuning in. For example, if they listen to this podcast, then I guess they would want to, you know, be in on part 2 or be able to pick up part 2. So, you know, structured in the sense that there's a definite topic of the day, and we, you know, kind of, I guess, have a curriculum or some kind of a structured program that people can actually follow.
Heard that.
So I agree with her. She mentioned that. So I think that, you know, that's a move in the right direction.
No doubt. So if y'all want to chop it up on a couple of things that y'all may want to address, we can do so. And we want to hold Michelle, if you want to hang out, you know, you're definitely welcome. But you know, as you mentioned, you had to excuse yourself. We don't want to hold you. You know, the conversation keep going and going and going. Because we're gonna continue on for a little bit to discuss a couple of things that, you know, all of us have been. You know, this core group right here have been starting out. So, you know, if y'all want to hang out, we can hang out, kick it some more, y'all. You know what I mean? Otherwise, if Michelle is leaving, we'll go ahead and send our regards to you right now so you can opt out quietly. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We appreciate you stopping through, yo. This is what it's all about. What you think, John?
Definitely. She just snuck up in here.
That's what it is. Go ahead, Michelle.
Just snuck up in here.
Well, I think, what has it been? I've been on for an hour and 50 minutes. Wasn't a sneak. I've been here for a minute. So, but yeah.
I saw the number pop up. I was like, who is this? I started to say something, but I was like, nah. They in mid-conversation.
I was going to say, Michelle calling in. You know what I'm saying? I don't know when, but she going to call in.
Just straight up. I was like, who is this? But I was like, okay, all right, cool.
She came in without the time. She shut the time off. How you do that?
Oh no. I did that just just in case y'all was in like a good, nice little train of thought that doesn't throw everybody off.
No doubt. So that's what it is. You see, Dr. Hill went in. She touched bases on a couple of things. So you know that we at the cusp of really like correlating, you know what I mean, that public curiosity, that mystery in the public and that mystery in the private, you know what I'm saying, to be able to make that plain and remove the fog from all of that. A lot of people are overselling this thing, over-sensationalize it, but it is quite practical, you know what I mean, and we have to learn how to live from that practicality and approach. But you do have to be astute, study and show thyself approved. Has to do with, you know, fighting for the persecution of your soul. You know what I'm saying? Blessed is the man after righteousness. You know what I mean? As well as woman. So, you know, this is about, you know, fighting for that righteousness. But you got to be able to, you got to walk the walk, talk the talk. So, you know, I mean, I'm highly excited about the direction that we're going. I don't even think we need to go into anything spiritual, metaphysical. We can close it out on that as a successful show. All in agreement, yo?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, I agree.
Heard out. We got Nakia back there. Nakia ain't said nothing.
Exactly.
I was still going over my notes. It was really a pleasure.
Word. Yo, she back there chilling, way back there cooling out. What you got? You a cup of cocoa or something? You know what I mean? What you doing?
Nah, I'm just in the.
Yo, y'all gotta watch out for Nakia, because she be dropping bombs, you know what I'm saying, and just sitting back
low
quiet.
Key.
You know what I mean? Yeah, she drops some real. Y'all go back and listen to a couple of the first joints on the other platform. You know what I mean? And you'll hear how she turned the conversation in a whole different direction. But we appreciate that. Thanks for stopping.
And then she try to make it like it's not a big deal too. She's like, oh, okay, well, you know, I said it.
But she's setting your standard. You know what I'm saying? That's Mrs. Hart. You know what I'm saying? I'm assuming in the making. You know what I mean? We're gonna put it out there like that, but she gonna set the bar high. You know what I mean? I already know. So anyway, yo, I'm gonna run on out myself, yo. You know what I'm saying? This was a great show. How long before you have it loaded up? You can stop recording. Go on.
Hold on. Let me stop.